This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Welcome inside the studio. Time to break down what we've seen so far from Week 12. Maria Taylor alongside Mike Florio, Devin, McCourty, Matthew Berry stepping up and coming up to the desk with us today too. Jason Garrett's calling games, so he's out for the Thanksgiving weekend. But let's have a conversation about one of the best games that we've seen so far, guys. That's the Bills and the Eagles in Kelly Green. We saw rain. It was like perfect football weather, and ultimately it was the Eagles coming out on top. Even though they were down by 10 points in the fourth quarter, they still found a way to win.
It was a phenomenal game, and the Eagles, I mean, we're getting tired of saying it, but they continue to find a way. They can play any style of football, whether the run game's working, the pass game's working, or they have to rely on James Bradbury making a huge interception that really kind of fueled that team to get them going. But somehow they make the clutch plays. It's fun to watch as a guy who played 13 years to watch a team never get worried. They don't care if they're up or down. They stay calm, stick to the game plan. And I think you look up, they're 10-1. And no one's really talking about them being like the team to beat in the NFL right now. And I don't think they're worried about it. Jalen Hurts said earlier this year, we only worry about the score at the end of the game. Nothing else matters, and they're proving that.
Well, and that is the big difference between this year and last year. Last year, it felt like it came too easy for them, especially in the playoffs. And then when they got to the Super Bowl and they got into a tight game, they got a little too tight. They weren't characteristic Eagles. There were a couple opportunities to go for it on fourth down. They didn't. They felt that way to the moment. This year, they're winning these games and having to fight and scratch and claw and earn every one. And that's going to serve them better if they get themselves into a tough playoff game or get back to the Super Bowl and are dealing with a team like the Chiefs that will never die and never go away. The Eagles kind of have that vibe this year.
They do. I say this. They're also, the ball is bouncing their way. I mean, you think about this on that final drive. A.J. Brown has a bang-bang play that could have been called a fumble, and I think had it been called a fumble on the field, it probably would have stood, right? You know, I mean, you think about the game, the drive before, Gabe Davis either runs the wrong route or he's just not on the same page as Josh Allen. It falls short, so they have to kick the field goal. If that's a touchdown, game over as well. So they're catching a couple of breaks. But having said that, we were all talking about this in the room, that the Bills on that first drive needed to score a touchdown, because if they scored a field goal, we were like, this game's over, because that's the confidence all of us have in Jalen Hurts. And that was just a brilliant, masterful kind of like, that's why you're the face of the franchise, one of the faces of the NFL, because of that drive where he just literally said, okay, guys, everyone on my back, we're going down and winning this game.
Let's talk about the Bills, though. Obviously, there's been some tumultuous things going on this season. You fire Ken Dorsey, maybe in danger of not making it into the playoffs. I mean, what are we thinking about, or how are we characterizing the Bills season at this point?
Well, that win over the Jets last weekend didn't really count, because who didn't expect that to happen? This was the real test, and this has to hurt because they go into their bye now. They have 14 days to think about this one, and they've got the Chiefs and the Cowboys on the other side of it. What a difference in mindset, Devin, as the players gather and take their break. And, you know, you've got a spring in your step if you beat the Eagles in Philly. Now you're 6-6, and other teams are going to be playing this weekend to get to their 12th game. A lot of them are 6-5. They're going to be 7-5. You're going to be behind. It's going to be a fight every step of the way for Bills to even have a chance to make it.
I remember a few weeks ago, they were coming back from London, and it was the big talk that they decided not to take the bye coming back from an international game. And now you look, yeah, you said it, Mike, you beat the Jets, but this big loss to Philly, now you go into the bye week, and it turns into, what are we going to do next? How's this going to work out? Are we going to make the playoffs? It's all question marks, instead of getting that win and going in and saying, all right, we turned it around. Now we go out and we upset these teams. But I think for this Bills team, it's too often they play these big games. They play well enough to win, but they fall short. It's like who they are at this point.
Devin, it is. It's all moments, right? We just talked about the Gabe Davis where he went the wrong way, whatever. They missed a field goal in this game. You know, Josh Allen threw a bad pick in this game. James Cook was running down the sideline and had a ball that landed in his hands. And if he catches that, he sprints to the end zone. And he drops it. You know what I mean? Like, you just, in a game of this magnitude, you can't make those mistakes, because it's just these individual plays, and it seems to always happen to the Bills where they just make one or two critical errors, and you're just like, you know what I mean? You needed it. And whether it's enforced, you think about the game against Denver with 12 men on the field, like, you have that game won, and all of that, like, it's just attention to detail. And you know, I mean, I think their offense has improved. But still, like, some of the mistakes, that's not on Ken Dorsey. It's not on Joe Brady. Like, it's just, That's on the team.
And I saw something on social media, and you can believe everything you see on social media. But Josh Allen is 0-6, 0-6 career in overtime, and it was a real account too. 0-6.
That is true because our researcher James Kaminsky had it on a note card, so we didn't have to get it from social media if we didn't want to.
There it is. I trust social media more than I trust them.
I have to put you on the spot. Okay, the Eagles have the best record in the NFL. Are they the best team?
Putting it on me because last week I keep talking about San Fran.
Yeah.
I'm not backing off my point. I still believe at their best, San Francisco is the best team, but Philadelphia is right there. And it's going to be a great battle to watch those teams go at it.
Let's say next week. We got them, Eagles 49ers, so we'll see. Okay, we had a great battle between the Texans and the Jaguars. And you know what's so exciting? We've got two young quarterbacks, you know what I mean? We'll be able to see Trevor Lawrence and C.J. Stroud going after it. Trevor was all smiles saying, I like going against another great quarterback. This is fun. And it's all about the AFC South. I mean, what did you enjoy about that back-to-back battle, seeing both of those guys and teams going at it?
Two quarterbacks playing at a very, very high level. C.J. Stroud, you want to talk about the winners here for a second, but just C.J. Stroud, his fourth straight game with over 300 yards. This is a team that everyone said, well, you're still rebuilding and everything like that. And there were questions coming into the draft of like, well, C.J. Stroud, there were questions, and then he goes second overall, and I bet Carolina's looking like, I don't know, maybe we should have. It's really brilliant. And the other thing that's crazy is in addition to how well C.J. Stroud is playing, Tank Dell at 5'8" is becoming, like, they're throwing him jump balls that he is winning. He's winning 50-50 balls at 5'8", and so he's becoming a true number one wide receiver in this NFL. And so seeing Stroud and Dell together, those two rookies emerge, is pretty amazing. And it's a disappointing loss because I would have think Ryans would have been Coach of the Year favorite had they won this game. And they came close, but again, missed field goals, and just again, they're not there just yet.
Yeah, and I think even for this division, like we're talking about Jacksonville, obviously they're leading the division. We're talking about how good Houston's look. Indianapolis is over them right now in the 7th seed in the playoffs. So this is a division that I think a lot of people looked and was like, that division's going to be pretty bad. Jacksonville should run away with it, and the other three teams aren't going to be any good. But we watched this battle, and Lawrence said it after the game, like, this is probably going to be a pretty good battle for years to come because of these quarterbacks. But I think Trevor Lawrence now is tiptoeing on moving up that top tier of quarterback of the way he comes out, spreads the ball around, hits different receivers all game, doesn't feel the pressure, makes the drives and the plays at the end of the game to win, even though he is in this heated battle with C.J. Stroud. It was almost like, hey, man, I've been where you are.
Watch that.
I'm the top dog here. Like, I'm that guy. Hold on, young buck, not yet. You got me earlier in the season, but not again.
Think about what the division could become, too. Anthony Richardson,
True. Yeah.
Will Levis, if he works out. You got four great quarterbacks top to bottom. I think what really helped the Jaguars a couple of weeks ago was getting beaten as badly as they did by the 49ers, because I think they learned something from that. They got a glimpse of the way they need to play if they want to be a great team. And what did they do? They completely destroyed the Titans a week later, and then they went into Houston and won a game against a team that had beaten them by 20 in their own play. So physical across the board, getting after C.J. Stroud, keeping him from running and moving in the pocket and moving out of the pocket and making things happen. And they were just determined. They had a level of determination that I think part of it is they learned from the 49ers, this is what you need to do to be great.
And to rebound off that, like, that defense made C.J. Stroud make great plays time after time. Like, he had to run right, run left, then make a great, like, when you put the pressure on the quarterback to do that, that's the only way you're going to have success. It usually works out in your favor.
4 sacks on C.J. Stroud and a lot of pressures as well. They shut down the run game as well. Devin Singletary came into this game running really, really hot, and they got Dameon Pierce back in this game, and they couldn't get anything on the ground. It was all on C.J. Stroud's arm. And you're right, he was under pressure. Josh Allen, Jacksonville's Josh Allen, had a great game. I mean, and so I think for as much as we want to talk about Lawrence because it's the quarterback, and they got Zay Jones back in this game, and that offense, Calvin Ridley coming back into form as well, it's the defense that's helped Jacksonville get a 2-game lead in the division.
You know, I like to joke that hopefully we'll be here for years to come too, but like 15 years from now, how old will you be?
I don't want to think about it. I won't be alive in 15 years. The joke's on you. I'll be dead by then.
I would like to say we would all be here talking about it, but I don't want to put that on Florio. But I'll start with you on the Steelers and the Bengals. They fire Matt.
Why do I come up here every week? She was much nicer when I only came up once a month.
It's really just been one of those weeks where I'm shots fired at everyone.
Yeah,
and
that's
you're
fine.
so
I can
far
take
away.
it. I can take it.
You can.
I can take it.
So
All
the
right.
Steelers. Okay,
15
over
years
400
from now,
yards.
15 years from now, I'm hiring Maria's kid to babysit. That's what I'm doing.
How it changed on offense? Did it look different? Is it just because Matt Canada's gone, we're all rallying around it, or did something look different to you schematically for the Steelers offense?
I feel like, because we know this happens, and Devin, you lived through it in your career, a lot of stuff happens behind the scenes that we never know about. I think there was a lot of stuff going on with the Steelers behind the scenes, and Matt Canada was the guy that they just viewed as the one who wasn't keeping everything together on the offensive side of the ball. And it really bubbled over in a few different ways and got Mike Tomlin involved last weekend. And I think that's probably the last straw for Tomlin. Like, look, I got to get your guys under control. No, that's for you to do. And it just kind of all fell apart this week. But now they put it back together. The running game is the way to go. Najee Harris running better. Jalen Warren, we know what he can do. And that's what Cam Hayward told me after the game. Their identity on offense is to run the ball. And that's the recipe. If they get to the postseason, and it's still a fairly big if, but if they get there, they can win there because they got the defense in the running game.
Yeah, I agree. And the highlight of today is going to be over 400 yards. They threw the ball down the field. But we can't get away. They had 153 yards rushing today. And I think the players are coming like, hey, if we can run the ball off of the run game, let's get the ball down the field. Let's not throw slants and quick passes. Let's throw the ball down the field. And I think, Florio, you're right. Tomlin said, hey, let's get everybody together. Let's get on one page. That's what the Steelers organization is about. 3 head coaches through the whole franchise history. We are always on the same page. Whether we win or we lose, this team will operate one way, and you can see them getting in line. And it helps in this league, right? You make these changes. You play a Bengals team without a Joe Burrow. So you feel really good. It's going to come later with some bigger tests to see what this team really looks like, how improved this offense is. But it was a good, I think, start for them going against Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, no Joe Burrow and no T. Higgins for the Bengals as well. But still, right, they did what they needed to do, which is to go on the road and get this win. I think the two things they did, you mentioned throwing downfield. Like, they have Deontay Johnson, they have George Pickens. They have 2 guys that can absolutely fly. And you obviously open that up by running the ball well, which they did with Harris and Warren. But the other thing they did in this game that I don't think we've seen really under Matt Canada is they used the middle of the field. Pat Freiermuth, their tight end, went 9 for 120 on 11 targets, which was a team high. He had 60 total yards in the 5 games prior. So they used Freiermuth, who's a real weapon, and they used the middle of the field, which opens up the outside for both those speedy wide receivers. And again, when they're running the ball well, because they know they've got a good defense, it simplifies it a little bit for Kenny Pickett, who's obviously struggled in that offense. But the fact is that as long as they don't ask him to do too much, because Deontay Johnson and George Pickens are 2 guys that get it somewhere near them, and those 2 guys can go up and win 50-50 balls. So I thought it was a really nice win for the Steelers in a tough division.
And it's one of those teams we're always going to look up and be like, yep, Steelers still in it.
They're there.
They're there.
Yep.
There's the Steelers again.
It's one of those things. It's like it's the Jesse Pinkman meme with Walter White from Breaking Bad. Like, they can't keep getting away with it, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, and now they face Jake Browning, right? I mean, they keep getting to play these like backup quarterbacks, but you look up and I'm a believer in the old Bill Parcells quote. You are what your record is, and like the Steelers are a winning team.
Good coaches matter.
Yeah. You guys get me every week with a reference I have no clue of, but hit the group chat with that scene so
You've
that
never
I
seen
can know
Breaking Bad?
what you're. I haven't seen that. I don't know
Okay,
what
that
is.
one's not an obscure reference. Florio.
I know about no Breaking Bad. No, I'm staying out of the reference business. I've learned the hard way. Just keep my mouth shut and my 70s references to myself.
Okay.
Florio, Breaking Bad is like a top 3 TV show of all time.
I feel bad right now because every time she says that, I agree with her because I
You don't
that
know?
one either.
Yeah, so I'm just standing up for Devin, too. We don't know what's going on. Let's talk about the Chiefs and the Raiders. We do know what went on
We
there.
know that one.
We think that Patrick Mahomes found a target that he loves.
Yeah.
Rashee Rice, 10 targets, over 100 yards receiving, especially coming out of a game where we were like, the drops by wide receivers against the Eagles is what's killed the Chiefs. And it looked good. It was great to see a chemistry between him and Rice.
64% of Rashee Rice's yards came after the catch. So suddenly it's like, yes, that's what an Andy Reid offense should look like. Get guys in motion, get them in space, use their speed, right? Kelsey is so good at that at the tight end position. Justin Watson caught a touchdown after getting the double-digit targets last week as well. He had some bad drops. So in a game in which they didn't have Mecole Hardman and they didn't have Kadarius Toney, kind of a simplified passing game, and they were able to get it done. They got down big they were down 2 touchdowns to the Raiders, but they stayed calm, they stuck with their offense, and they started to look oh yeah, that's the Chiefs, that's Patrick Mahomes.
And that's why they stay calm. Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
They don't ever worry. But Sim said something earlier today when we were talking. You might want to give a little bit of credit to Eric Bieniemy because this offense hasn't really looked the same. And he took a lot of, no credit here. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. But you look at this offense. Last year, they didn't have a marquee receiver other than Kelsey at tight end. They didn't have one of these top go-to guys. I know people always talk about Juju Smith-Schuster, but you watch him in New England, and you're like, that's not that big of a difference with him in Kansas City. So I do think this team now is finding a little bit of his stride. But again, we're talking about a team that struggled one week, and then the next week you do what? You get to play against you get to play against the Raiders team who, even though they got off to a good start, I think they knew the Raiders knew, all right, this is a tall task we got to do. So as soon as they go down 14-0, they score one touchdown, and I think they were like, oh, the Raiders know we're here. Score before the half, and just like that, it's 14-14, but really the game's over. It's going to be, how does Kansas City compete against the better teams? They played Philly last week. The week before, they fell short. They're always going to be in the game because they have the best quarterback in the NFL, but it's how do they get over that step with these guys stepping up. Today it was Rashee Rice. Who will it be next week? Will it continue to be him, or will they need to go to someone on different weeks? So we'll have to see with this offense.
I think last year they were so motivated to prove that they didn't need Tyreek Hill, and they did by winning the Super Bowl, and then they forgot about it this year. Like, you still have to show that someone can come in and get it done. Tyreek Hill would have caught the pass on Monday night when Marquez Valdez-Scantling was wide open down the middle. It probably wouldn't have even come to that if Tyreek Hill was in the game that night. And so they're finally getting that. And you mentioned yards after catch. You can't have any if you can't catch the ball. That's the key. These are professional athletes. It's fair for us to say you need to catch the ball if your hands touch it, and we saw it time and again last Monday night. And today, Rashee Rice getting it done, and that's what Patrick Mahomes needs. Someone that he is comfortable and confident. I throw him the ball, he's going to catch it. It can't just be Travis Kelce.
And I'm not just bringing this up to suck up to Devin here, but how about Isaiah Pacheco? They got a balanced offense. Rutgers kid Isaiah Pacheco.
You can't go wrong with Rutgers
I
guys.
know. I mean, but you know what? He ran well, and they had a balanced offense. And that's the other thing is I think that because of the lack of talent at wide receiver, they need to have a balanced offense so it isn't just like, hey, Patrick, put on your cape and save us once again.
All right, guys. Well, it is week 12, and the Atlanta Falcons are finally entering the group chat of discussions that we have.
You're so happy right now.
I mean, it took Ludacris showing up before the game. It took Jeezy performing at halftime, but we're going to have a conversation about the Falcons. They beat the Saints in their first meeting. They will play them again in Week 18, but now they're tied atop the NFC South, and you believe a big part of that is because of the run game.
Let Ritter rock. Put Ritter back in there. Run game goes off. He's decisive. He was a part of the run game.
Yep.
Over 30 yards today, scramble plays, a couple design quarterback run plays. But again, yes, it goes back to, and it's not just Bijan. Yes, give the ball to Bijan Robinson. Let him catch the ball, run the ball, but also get Algier in it, get Patterson in it. Let them run the ball because I think what they did in New Orleans today, they didn't just run. They ran over top of New Orleans. A couple of runs where Patterson's getting up, screaming in guys' face. When you want to run the ball, you need that kind of energy. And I think that builds the confidence of Ritter to go out there. And he still made some pretty bad mistakes, which is going to happen. But I think when he's playing confident, he's decisive, throwing the ball, running the ball, the team builds off that. And their defense has played well all year, so they got to rely on it.
I was going to say, that's the point. They have a good defense that played really well against the Saints here. And then, so being able to have ball control. Bijan Robinson got 19 touches in this game. It's a second straight game with 19 touches. It's been weird. His usage has been weird throughout the year, but they got Cordero Patterson involved a little bit in this one. And Tyler Algier also gets a little bit. But Bijan Robinson, who not only was involved in the running game, but in the passing game as well, he along with Kyle Pitts, I think, are their most dynamic playmakers. They're still working on getting Kyle Pitts involved, but it was good to see Bijan Robinson involved in the passing game and in the running game. And so, yeah, just what we talk about with Pittsburgh, it's a similar kind of success. Play good defense, run the ball, don't turn it over, don't ask Desmond Ridder to do too much.
Yeah, and I think the key to having an offense that is really focused on the run is having rhythm, sustaining drives. It's hard to do anything if you just don't get into a rhythm, and now they've settled on Desmond Ridder, and it seems like they're going to stick with him until further notice, and why not after today? This was a huge win. It puts them in position to potentially win the division. Now, I feel sorry for them that they're going to be hosting either the Eagles or the Cowboys, most likely, in the wild card round, but still, it's progress. For Arthur Smith, it may save his job.
Yes.
So that may be the key for him to get another chance next year to build on this year and see if they can become one of the elite teams in the NFC.
All right, Matthew, it's that time. It's time for you to give us fantasy football news, this time in front of a live studio audience.
Yeah,
we
sure.
are your live studio audience.
Well, I'm glad we were talking about Bijan Robinson because that's one of the big storylines. Bijan Robinson, who was a first-round draft pick in pretty much every fantasy draft out there, it's been a very inconsistent workload for him under Arthur Smith. Sometimes he was actually losing red zone touches and goal-to-go touches to Tyler Algier. And Tyler Algier's a nice player, but you don't use the 8th overall pick on an NFL player, especially at the running back position, if you're going to give it to a fifth-round, a fifth-round second-year player in Tyler Algier. So it was nice to see, as I mentioned, back-to-back weeks with 19 touches as well, over 100 total yards. He gets the 2 touchdowns, Bijan Robinson. And look at their upcoming schedule here, guys. This is not just fantasy, but also real life. So they're at the Jets, home to Tampa Bay, at Carolina, home to Indianapolis. All 4 of those are very winnable games for the Falcons here as you talk about them being in the driver's seat, Mike, for the NFC South. But certainly you feel good about them at home against the Jets and then a couple of division.
Fantasy is real life for us.
I appreciate that.
Start Bijan against that Jets
Yeah,
defense.
okay, we got it.
Bijan is back to being an RB1.
Got it.
Second thing here is talking about sort of return, and we didn't really get into the Rams, but this was a really nice win for the Rams, and it was powered by Kyren Williams, who in his return, we were quite, what's he going to look like? Is he going to be the same guy he was before he went out with the injury as well? Well, massive game. 204 yards from scrimmage, the second most by a running back in a game this season. In his first game back against Arizona, he's now averaging 19 touches a game. He had 38.4 fantasy points in this game. It's a career high. He's a locked-in RB1 the rest of the way, just like he was before.
You talk about the Rams. I got Cooper Kupp. What do I need to do with him, Matthew?
It feels like he was a decoy in this game. It was his first game back as well. He was questionable coming into the game. I feel like ultimately he'll still be better.
Okay.
He'll be better. I'm not panicking
Not
yet
helping
on.
me, though.
No, he didn't help anyone today. He didn't need to. That was the other problem. Is Kyren Williams was so good, and Arizona didn't put up much of a fight. That Kyren Williams did that as well. So had a very good game.
Okay.
So.
Well, okay. We got it. You might want to keep him.
Yeah.
You might
Yes.
want to, but if Kyren Williams is out there.
I got a quick trigger, though. I don't know.
No. Stay patient.
Let's
Devin.
get
Stay
to
You're
your-
like Belichick. Cut him 1 year too early instead of 1 year too late.
What about your DraftKings crowning moments, Matthew? What you got?
Yeah, these are actual bets from actual players right here. DraftKings crowning moments. Somebody put $2,000 down on the Raiders' first touchdown to win $5,700. So just on the Raiders to score the first touchdown, said plus 185. So they put $2,000 down, they win $5,700. Somebody, this was an interesting one, but somebody had to score in that Giants-Patriots game. Somebody out there put down $250 on Isaiah Hodgins' anytime touchdown. That went off at plus 1,100. That cashed for $3,000. And then finally somebody, this one's a weird one, but somebody put $100 down to predict the correct score of the Titans-Panthers. And they did at plus 4,000, so they won $6,100.
That's a great bet right there.
That had to be from those areas, though. No one else probably
doing
even
that,
thinking
right?
about those games.
Fresh out of Nashville.
Something like that. But it did pay off for those bettors as well. And I'm to remind you guys to don't forget on DraftKings Sportsbook this season, new customers can bet $5 and pocket $150 in bonus bets instantly. All customers get a no-sweat same-game parlay every single day. Just download the app, use promo code SNF when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.
All right, good stuff, Matthew. For our Week 12 speed round, and this time, you guys, give me your answers. We're in the final third of the NFL season. It's wrapping up quickly, it seems as though. Who finishes with the #1 seed in the AFC?
I feel like it's going to be the Chiefs just because it's always the Chiefs. They haven't played a road playoff game with Patrick Mahomes as their starting quarterback. That's amazing. 5 straight years, not a single road playoff game. I think when this scrum is done, they'll be the 1 seed.
I'm going Baltimore. I think that division seemed like it wasn't going to allow them to be #1, but Burrow goes down, Watson goes down. I think they're going to finish the season strong. I think they believe this is our year to go win the Super Bowl. I think they finish 1.
I agree with Devin. I think it's the Ravens. It just feels like the Chiefs something slightly off here. I feel like the Ravens are the most complete team in the AFC right now.
Okay, how many teams from the AFC North will make the playoffs?
I'm thinking 3. I think it's going to be the Ravens, the Browns, and the Steelers. I think all 3 are going to get in. There was a point where all 4 looked like maybe they could get in, which is theoretically possible, although that would be very hard to do. But we've seen 3 come out of a division before. It wouldn't be nuts if those 3 teams made it.
I felt like that a week ago, but now I'm going to go 2. I think Baltimore and Pittsburgh get in. I think Pittsburgh, having Tomlin kind of steer that ship. I think they kind of know what they want to do now. The firing of Matt Canada allows them to move forward and not worry about all the outside noise. It's just focus on the season. I think those defensive players believe in what they're doing. Mike talked about talking to Cam Hayward. They know this is a style that they can win in the playoffs. I think they feel that way. I think Cleveland falls just a little short. DTR getting hurt today. Not sure if he's out there. This team might be led by Joe Flacco going down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Devin. I think it's right there on the cusp for Cleveland, but you'd see back teams like the Texans, the Broncos, the Colts, they're all hanging around. And so, yeah, I feel like the Browns lose like on a tiebreaker by 1 game. Steelers and Ravens from the north for me.
Okay, I love you brought up all those squads. Who has the best shot to make the playoffs? Colts, Texans, Broncos, or Bills?
You know, I did the high-end analytics here. I looked at their schedules. I put it in the computer, and then I just threw a dart. I think out of those 4, the Texans, to me, have the easiest schedule, and I just think they've got the best player in C.J. Stroud. You put the 2 together, and I think it's them.
So I didn't get to do that, so I'm not 100% sure about
I thought
these
it was
schedules.
like I went to social media and I saw.
I'm going to go with the Broncos. I think the Broncos are hitting. They're kind of stride at the right point in the season. They feel confident. They have Russell Wilson that I think they believed in. Obviously, last year didn't go well, but I think they can kind of feel like, hey, this guy's been here before. He's played on championship teams. Let's just keep this thing rolling. Let's keep riding it out, and let's ride Bronco country.
Yeah, I think those are the 2 right answers, right? That's what I was going to say. So I would say the Texans, the Broncos. I agree with Mike. They have the better schedule. They also seem like a little bit of team of destiny. Like, I know they fell short today against Jacksonville, but easy schedule and a special player. But I'll just say this about the Broncos and their schedule. So I think a lot will be determined next week when they play Houston. So it is Texans, Broncos next week, and that's going to be a huge game. After that, the Broncos are at the Chargers, at Detroit, New England, Chargers again, and at Las Vegas. So if they can split the 2 Chargers, if the 2 games against the Chargers, Detroit's probably a loss. But if they only lose twice the rest of the way, I think they're in. So that's, to me, I think it comes down to who wins the Houston Denver game next week.
Mm-hmm. Who wins the NFC South? The only correct answer is the Falcons.
I think it's Falcons. After today, I think it's the Falcons. I really do. And it doesn't mean they're going to get very far in the postseason, but at least they'd get a home game. And like I said, you build something for next year.
Perfect.
I mean, it's like a battle. Like who even wants this division? I mean, it's like one week we think the Saints look really good, or Kamara gets going, Taysom Hill has a couple plays. But I'll agree with Mike. I think it's the Falcons because they look the best most recently. I'll say the Falcons.
Yeah, I'll say the Falcons as well. I just think they're playing too good defense. The Saints are too inconsistent. The Bucs are too banged up as well. Obviously, Carolina's got a lot of issues.
Okay, good. You guys get great. Right answers. Which NFC team outside the Big Four, which is Philly, San Fran, Detroit, and Dallas, has the best chance at a big postseason?
Go ahead, Florio.
I think it's the Vikings. I really do. Especially because the big difference between last year and this year, and Sims has said this, last year they had a great record, but they didn't have a great team, and they weren't able to compete in the postseason. The difference is the defense. Ed Donatell's system was just all system-based, and by the end of the year, you could pick it apart. Brian Flores is coming up with something every week. He's got a recipe. He's got a disguise. He's got a plan. He's got something different for every team. He'll come up with something, and Kevin O'Connell's got his finger on that offense, and he's getting Josh Dobbs going. And, yeah, the run game could be a little bit better. But of the teams in the NFC, I think they could do it.
I'm going to agree. I'm going Minnesota. I think, like you said, what Brian Flores has brought to this team, this defense believes in what he's doing. They're going out there. When he goes all-out blitz, there's no kind of like, why are we doing this? Everybody is locked in. They're bringing the pressure. That's hard to do as a defense. I've been in defensive meetings and huddle where the game's on the line, it's 4th and 8, and they call that call. I'm like, man, we sending everybody? And I think Minnesota's gotten to that point early in the season. I remember texting him, and I'm like, hey, the guy's got to do this on the blitz call. And he was like, I'm still trying to get them to believe. And now you watch this defense. They believe in what he's doing, and I think Kevin O'Connell, what he's able to draw up offensively, he'll figure out a way to get enough points and win football games, and I believe in Minnesota.
Yeah, I hate to sound the same as everyone else, but I agree with both you guys. I think it's the Vikings, and Devin, you've experienced this, but sometimes there's just teams that just feel like teams of destiny and just everyone's buying in the locker room, and I don't think you can underestimate what Josh Dobbs has brought to that locker room. I mean, they've all rallied around him. They believe in him. It's a great story. It's a pretty good schedule for them as well. I remember when we had them last week, on Sunday Night Football, they showed the graphic that even with a loss, the Vikings had like a 70% chance of making the playoffs. Yes, tough loss to Denver as well, but, you know, they have a bye next week, and then they should get Justin Jefferson back. We'll see what happens tomorrow night, but I think they take care of business on Monday night. I think they take care of business against the Bears. And, yeah, and then they have a bye, and then they get Jefferson back, and things are looking pretty good.
Y'all have no
Florio's going to be happy.
Right. What about the Packers and the Rams? Nothing?
Oh, the Rams. The Rams are dangerous. Do not sleep on the Rams, because with the Seahawks falling and the Rams swept them, this was a huge weekend to have Seattle lose as badly as they did, and they still have the Cowboys and the 49ers and the Eagles coming up. The Rams could get into the playoff field when you've got Aaron Donald. If Matthew Stafford's healthy, if Cooper Kupp's healthy, Puka Nacua has been great, the Rams could shock somebody too. I don't want to write them off.
They lose somebody else. So like that's the hard thing when you look at this Rams team. I'm like, why do they keep getting all these injuries? It's like they're always like, even Kupp today, that first drive, he starts limping, they retape his ankle, but as a player, I know what that means. So you hurt your ankle last week, you come in this week, you're questionable, but then get to full participant, you play, then you got to retape it the next. Like that just goes on, and they're going to need him down the stretch.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.